I'm Alexis Simmons.
And I'm Emmanuel Key.
And today we will be discussing Dutchman by Amiri Baraka.
Dutchman won an Obie Award in 1964 alongside Adrian Kennedy's Funny House of a Negro. Now, we are thrown into the world of the play, which is set in 1964. And the play premieres in March of 1964, and it's not until July of 1964 that the Civil Rights Act was passed. So there still is a racial divide between black people and white people systematically.
This era is dominated more by Martin Luther King Jr. than it is by Malcolm X. This is around the time that Malcolm X is just getting his footing, and Dr. King is just now receiving backlash from his movement and him specifically.
Also, this is 3 years before Loving versus Virginia, which was the Supreme Court case that made a heterosexual interracial marriage legal. So the idea of a black person with a white person was still seen as taboo.
So due to the civil rights movement, this is also around the time that the black middle class is coming into fruition.
So, Amiri Baraka, while we talk about the rise of the middle class, Amiri Baraka comes from a not poor family. His mother was a social worker and his dad worked for the postal services, but he certainly wasn't poor. So much so that he actually was able to afford to go to college. He got a scholarship to Rutgers, then he went to Howard University for a little bit, then he went to Columbia University, and then he went to New School for Social Research, but he never earned a degree. Also, around this time, Amiri Baraka was just divorcing his Jewish wife. Now, they also lived in Greenwich Village, but Amiri Baraka also was described as racist, homophobic, and anti-Semitic, which is very strange for a black man who's with a white woman living in Greenwich Village at this time.
Where's Greenwich Village?
In New York City.
Is it uppity?
It now is, but it was like the neighborhood of the United States of America.
So, Amiri Baraka changed his name from Leroy Jones in 1965 in response to the assassination of Malcolm X.
He went from Leroy Jones to Imamu Amir Baraka, and then Amiri Baraka.
Imamu means spiritual leader, Amir means prince, and Baraka means blessing in the sense of divine favor. The first thing we identified was race and racism. So there is evidence of both anti-black racism and anti-Semitic racism.
Another theme present within the play is the idea of class. Now you can see class become prevalent in the way that Lula attacks and targets Clay for being a middle-class African-American male.
The next theme that we identified is identity and confusion. So Lula's main objective is to push Clay out of his identity and destroy his sense of self and transform him into a man that thinks a lot less of himself than Clay does before she comes into contact with him. Lula's character represents white America's infatuation with black life and also their pursuit of our destruction. Clay's name is a symbol of his character's malleability and the way that Lula was able to transform his sense of self.
You can see symbols in the apple, the knife, the conductor of the train, and the crowd. The knife you can see is that she doesn't stab him in the back when she wants to kill him. She stabs him in the chest, in his heart, up front, center, not hiding her hatred. The apple puts her in the place of Eve, in this case of an Adam and Eve, where her whole objective and purpose in the play was to corrupt him in the same way that Eve did to Adam. The conductor, who is a foil to the character of Clay, you have the picture of the middle-class, well-educated Clay, and then the train conductor, who is another black male, but a black male that she is okay with and doesn't hate. And then 4, you have the crowd on the train. Now, the crowd of the train are not just white people. They are white people and black people, but no one seems to help the problem until the very end when they throw Clay off the train after she kills him.
We discovered 2 ways to interpret the title. The first is as an allusion to the myth of the Flying Dutchman. So basically the plot of the Flying Dutchman is that a ghost ship leaves port and it's doomed to sail the seas for all of eternity. We found parallels between the ship as a vessel and the train as a vessel, in that Lula is never going to stop this cycle of pursuing this type of black man and then murdering this type of black man. You can tell by the end of the play that Lula's action is perpetuated. It's doomed never to end, just as the Flying Dutchman is doomed never to come back into port. The second interpretation we got from the definition of a Dutchman, which is a wedge. And Lula's character is using her deceit to drive a wedge between Clay and the identity that he's formed for himself. She wants to expose, tear away all these layers to turn Clay into the type of black man that white people think exists in America at this time, which is not someone who's confident or who's well-dressed or who has money, like Clay does. The middle class is a very new thing, so it's not the way that white people at this time view black people. The closing.
Yes. Thank you so much for watching, and now we're going to head on to the discussion.